Welcome to today's deep dive, where we'll be exploring a story from the Zhuangzi.
Okay.
It's a key text in Taoist philosophy. We can think of it as this philosophical face-off between Confucianism,
Right.
with its emphasis on social order,
Yeah.
and the more go-with-the-flow philosophy of Taoism.
Okay. Cool.
Our source material is a single story,
Okay.
a really memorable encounter
Yeah.
between Confucius himself
Interesting.
and a mysterious fisherman.
What makes this story so compelling is how it challenges our ideas about living a good life. Are there multiple paths to wisdom?
Right.
Can we find fulfillment outside societal norms?
Interesting question.
And these are just some of the questions we'll be unpacking today.
So let's set the scene.
Okay.
Imagine Confucius,
Okay.
this revered philosopher and teacher,
Yeah.
relaxing with his disciples
Mhm.
in a beautiful apricot grove.
Nice.
They're enjoying music, engaging in deep philosophical discussions.
Oh, right.
It's a picture of serenity.
It's an idyllic setting. And it creates a stark contrast when this fisherman suddenly appears.
Okay.
He's described as having flowing white hair, loose robes,
Yeah.
and this serene aura that immediately piques the curiosity of Confucius's students.
It's like, who is this
Yeah.
guy?
Right.
And the mystery deepens when the fisherman starts questioning Confucius's whole approach to life. He throws out these pointed questions about Confucius's social status
Oh.
and his efforts to promote good governance.
Interesting.
The disciples,
Yeah.
loyal as they are,
Mhm.
jump in to defend their teacher,
Yeah.
explaining his mission to guide people towards a virtuous life.
But the fisherman isn't swayed by their arguments.
Right.
He remains skeptical of this emphasis on social roles and rituals.
Okay.
In a final, almost mic drop moment,
Yeah,
he declares that Confucius is far from the Tao.
that's a bold statement.
It is.
What was the fisherman getting at? Was he just trying to provoke Confucius?
I think there's more to it than just provocation. The fisherman isn't simply dismissing Confucius's teachings.
Right.
He's highlighting a fundamental difference in their worldviews.
Okay.
Confucianism at its core is concerned with social harmony
Mhm.
and the betterment of society through rules and rituals.
Right.
Taoism, on the other hand,
Right.
emphasizes the importance of aligning oneself with the natural flow of the universe,
Okay.
a concept known as the Tao.
So the fisherman is suggesting that by focusing so much on outward appearances and social structures,
Yeah,
Confucius might be missing a deeper, more internal path to wisdom.
exactly.
Okay.
The fisherman's critique goes beyond just disagreeing with Confucius.
Right.
He's suggesting that the pursuit of social status and the adherence to rigid social structures might actually hinder one's connection to the Tao. It's like he's saying,
Yeah.
you're so busy trying to fix the world that you're missing the beauty and wisdom of simply being.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But how does Confucius react to this? Does he get defensive?
Not at all. And that's one of the things I find so remarkable about this story. Confucius, despite his reputation as a wise and learned man, shows incredible humility in this encounter.
Okay.
Instead of dismissing the fisherman's critique,
Right.
he recognizes the wisdom in his words.
So how does he respond?
The text tells us that Confucius immediately puts down his instrument and sets off on a determined search to find the fisherman again,
Wow.
eager to learn more from this mysterious sage.
He goes looking for him.
He does.
Wow.
He even refers to the fisherman as a divine man,
Okay.
acknowledging a level of wisdom that surpasses his own.
That's quite a shift.
It is.
It shows a real openness to learning
Yeah,
and a willingness to challenge his own assumptions.
absolutely.
So does he find the fisherman again?
He does. And they
Yeah.
have a deeper conversation
Yeah.
where the fisherman delves into the core principles of Taoism.
Okay.
He lays out his critique of Confucius's worldview in more detail
Right.
and offers an alternative path to wisdom and fulfillment.
I'm curious to know more about the specifics of this alternative path.
Okay.
What kind of wisdom does the fisherman share with Confucius?
Well, one of the key ideas he introduces is
Yeah.
the concept of wu wei, often translated as non-action or effortless action.
Okay.
But it's not about being passive. It's
Yeah.
about aligning oneself with the natural flow of the Tao and acting in a way that is spontaneous and effortless,
Okay.
free from striving or forcing things to happen.
So it's about finding that sweet spot
Yeah.
where your actions are in harmony with the universe,
Right.
rather than constantly fighting against the current.
Exactly.
Right.
And the fisherman embodies this principle in the story.
Yeah.
He lives a simple life,
Mhm.
close to nature,
Right.
free from the complexities and striving of the Confucian world.
Okay, so far we've got this idea of aligning with the Tao
Yeah.
and this principle of effortless action.
Mm-hmm.
What else does the fisherman teach Confucius?
He goes on to explain his ideas about truth and sincerity.
Which are fundamental to Taoist thought. He suggests that true authenticity comes from within,
Okay.
from being in harmony with nature, not from trying to conform to societal expectations or chasing external validation.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Yes.
A rejection of external validation and social striving in favor of inner peace and alignment with nature.
Exactly.
But how does this connect back to the idea of the Tao? What exactly is the Tao?
Yeah.
And how do we find it?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's one that we'll continue to explore throughout our deep dive.
Okay.
But in simple terms, the Tao can be understood as the underlying principle of the universe, the natural order of things. It's the source of all creation, the flow of life itself.
That's a beautiful concept.
It is.
But it also seems incredibly abstract.
It can be.
How do we connect with something so vast and intangible?
Right.
How do we know if we're aligned with it? That's where the fisherman's teachings become really insightful.
Okay.
He doesn't offer a step-by-step guide to finding the Tao.
Right.
Instead, he points out the obstacles that prevent us from connecting with it.
Obstacles, you mean like distractions or temptations?
Those are certainly part of it.
Okay.
But the fisherman goes deeper, identifying specific flaws and hazards that can hinder personal growth and inner peace.
Okay.
He argues that these flaws and hazards stem from a place of ego and self-interest, which ultimately create disharmony and keep us from aligning with the natural flow of the Tao.
So these flaws and hazards are like roadblocks on our path to finding the Tao.
Exactly. And he doesn't just list them off, he describes them in detail, offering a framework for understanding how these tendencies manifest in our lives and how they prevent us from achieving true fulfillment.
This is getting really interesting. Can you give us some examples of these flaws and hazards?
He talks about things like meddling in affairs that don't concern you.
Okay.
Advancing yourself through flattery, sowing discord among friends, and being two-faced to appease everyone.
Okay, some of those are hitting a little too close to home. I can definitely see how those behaviors would lead to inner turmoil and conflict.
Yeah.
And that's precisely the point.
Right.
He's highlighting the ways in which our own actions and attitudes can create disharmony and prevent us from living authentically.
Yes.
It's not about blaming ourselves for having these flaws.
Right.
It's about recognizing them so that we can start to make different choices.
Exactly.
So the fisherman is offering a path to self-awareness and self-cultivation as a way to align with the Tao.
Exactly. And it's not a one-time fix.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process of examining our motivations, our actions, and our relationships to see where we're creating disharmony and how we can shift our perspective to find more balance and ease.
This is fascinating stuff.
It is.
I'm already starting to think about my own life and the choices I make.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious to know more about these flaws and hazards and how they specifically relate to the idea of the Tao.
Right.
Perhaps we can delve into those in more detail after the break.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We've only just scratched the surface of the fisherman's teachings, and there's much more to unpack.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Before the break, we were talking about how the fisherman identified specific flaws and hazards that prevent us from connecting with the Tao.
Right.
I'm eager to learn more about what those are.
Well, the fisherman lists 8 flaws
Okay.
that can hinder personal growth and inner peace.
Okay.
They include things like meddling in affairs that don't concern you, advancing yourself through flattery, and speaking insincerely.
Some of those sound like everyday human foibles.
Yeah.
It's almost as if he's saying that even seemingly small actions can create ripples of disharmony.
That's exactly right. The fisherman isn't just talking about major transgressions. He's highlighting how even subtle behaviors, like taking pleasure in others' misfortunes or praising indiscriminately, can disrupt our inner equilibrium and create negativity around us.
This reminds me of that saying, what you put out into the world comes back to you. It seems like the fisherman is emphasizing a similar idea. That our actions, even seemingly insignificant ones, have consequences.
I think that's a great connection. The fisherman seems to be suggesting that by becoming aware of these flaws and making a conscious effort to act differently, we can create a more harmonious and fulfilling life, both for ourselves and for those around us.
Okay, so we have these 8 flaws.
Yeah.
What about the 4 hazards?
Okay.
What did the fisherman say about those?
The 4 hazards are essentially negative character traits that can lead us astray.
Okay.
They are presumption,
Okay.
greed, obstinacy,
Right. And arrogance.
Those sound like pretty universal human failings.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine anyone who hasn't struggled with at least one of those at some point in their lives.
Exactly. I think that's what makes the fisherman's teaching so relevant,
Right.
even thousands of years later. He's tapping into these fundamental human tendencies that can lead to suffering and disharmony.
Let's break down those hazards a bit more.
Okay.
What does he mean by presumption?
Presumption, according to the fisherman, is about interfering in matters that are beyond our scope.
Okay.
Often for the sake of gaining recognition.
Right.
It's like that person who always has to be the center of attention, even if they don't really know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's about acting without considering the broader context or the potential consequences.
Oh, I know a few people like that.
Right.
And I'm sure I've been guilty of it myself at times.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in our own egos.
Right.
And desire to be seen as knowledgeable or helpful. That's the tricky thing about these hazards.
Right.
They often stem from good intentions,
Yeah.
but they can lead to unintended negative consequences if we're not careful.
Right.
What's interesting is that the fisherman sees these hazards as directly opposed to the principles of the Tao,
Okay.
which emphasizes humility, non-interference, and going with the flow.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So presumption is about overstepping our boundaries and interfering where we're not needed or welcome.
Yeah.
What about greed?
Okay.
I think we all have a pretty good understanding of that one.
Greed, as the fisherman describes it, is that insatiable desire for more wealth, power possessions, even attention.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending cycle of wanting, striving, and feeling like we're never enough.
I think in our modern world, greed is often glorified.
It is.
We're constantly bombarded with messages that tell us to consume more, achieve more, be more. It can be hard to resist that pressure.
It absolutely can.
Yeah.
And the fisherman would argue that this constant striving and craving is the antithesis of living in accordance with the Tao. It creates a sense of lack and dissatisfaction that keeps us from experiencing true peace and contentment.
Okay, so we've covered presumption and greed.
Yeah.
What about the next hazard? Obstinacy.
Obstinacy is essentially stubbornness.
Right.
Refusing to listen to reason or advice, even when it's clear we're on the wrong path. It's that rigidity in our thinking that prevents us from adapting and changing course when necessary.
I can see how that would be a problem.
Yeah.
If we're not willing to learn and grow, we're likely to keep making the same mistakes, creating more suffering for ourselves and others.
Exactly. The Tao is about being flexible, like water, adapting to the changing circumstances of life. Obstinacy, on the other hand, is like a rigid rock that refuses to bend, eventually getting broken by the relentless force of the current.
I like that analogy. It's a powerful reminder of the importance of staying open and adaptable.
Absolutely.
Okay. That leaves us with one more hazard. Arrogance.
Right.
What did the fishermen have to say about that?
Arrogance is the belief that our own way is the only right way, even when presented with evidence to the contrary.
Right.
It's a closed-mindedness that prevents us from seeing things from other people's perspectives.
Okay.
It's about clinging to our own beliefs and opinions, even when they might be causing harm.
I think we see a lot of arrogance in the world today.
We do.
Especially with the rise of social media and the polarization of opinions.
Right.
It's easy to get caught up in our own echo chambers.
Yeah.
And assume that anyone who disagrees with us is wrong or even evil.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
The fisherman's teachings offer a powerful antidote to that kind of thinking.
Okay.
He's emphasizing the importance of humility, recognizing that we don't have all the answers, and that there are multiple valid perspectives on any issue.
So it's about being open to learning from others, even those we disagree with.
Right.
It's about recognizing the limitations of our own knowledge and understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not about becoming passive or indecisive.
Right.
It's about approaching life with a sense of curiosity and openness, being willing to question our own assumptions and consider other viewpoints.
It sounds like the fisherman is advocating for a kind of intellectual humility that is increasingly rare in our world.
It is.
It's a reminder that true wisdom often comes from recognizing how much we don't know.
I think that's beautifully put.
Yeah.
And this brings us back to the core of Taoism.
Okay.
The idea of aligning ourselves with the Tao,
Yeah.
the natural flow of the universe. When we're caught up in these flaws and hazards, meddling, being greedy, stubborn, or arrogant, we're essentially resisting the natural order of things. We're creating our own suffering.
And preventing ourselves from experiencing true peace and fulfillment.
So the Fisherman's teachings aren't just about abstract philosophical concepts.
Right.
They're offering practical guidance on how to live a more harmonious and meaningful life.
Absolutely.
He's showing us how our own internal state, our thoughts, emotions, can either create or destroy our sense of well-being.
That's a powerful way to put it.
Yeah.
And it highlights the profound connection between our inner world and the outer world. The Taoists believe that these two realms are inseparable.
Right.
That our internal state directly influences our experience of reality.
Right.
By cultivating inner peace and harmony, we can create a more peaceful and harmonious world around us.
That brings us to another key concept in Taoism.
Okay.
The idea of truth and sincerity.
Right.
What did the Fisherman have to say about those qualities?
The Fisherman emphasizes that true authenticity comes from within.
From being in harmony with our own nature and with the natural world.
Right.
It's not about outward appearances or conforming to societal expectations.
It's about being true to ourselves.
Exactly.
Even if that means going against the grain.
Precisely.
Okay.
The Fisherman is suggesting that when we're aligned with our true nature, our actions will naturally be in harmony with the Tao.
So it's not about trying to force ourselves to be good or moral.
Right.
It's about aligning with our deepest selves.
Yeah.
And letting our actions flow from that place of authenticity.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Thanks.
The Fisherman is essentially saying that true virtue and morality arise naturally from a state of inner harmony.
Okay.
When we're at peace with ourselves and with the world around us, we're less likely to act in ways that cause harm or create disharmony.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like when you're feeling stressed and anxious, you're more likely to snap at someone or make a rash decision. But when you're feeling calm and centered, you're more likely to act with kindness and wisdom.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why the Fisherman's teachings are so relevant today in a world that's increasingly chaotic and stressful. The Taoist emphasis on inner peace and harmony offers a powerful path to finding a sense of grounding and well-being.
This whole conversation has been incredibly insightful.
It has.
I'm starting to see how the Fisherman's teachings offer a different way of approaching life.
Yeah.
A way that prioritizes inner harmony over external achievements.
Right.
But I'm also curious to know how Confucius himself responded to all of this.
Okay.
Did he have any kind of epiphany? Did he change his ways?
That's a great question, and it's one that we'll explore in more depth in our next episode.
Okay, sounds good.
Stay with us as we continue our deep dive into the Zhuangzi and the timeless wisdom of Taoism.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Zhuangzi.
Yeah.
Before the break, we were discussing how the Fisherman's teachings challenge us to look inward and cultivate inner harmony as a path to aligning with the Tao. I'm particularly fascinated by this concept of truth and sincerity that he emphasized.
Right.
It seems to be about finding a genuine way of being that's not dictated by external pressures.
You've hit the nail on the head. The Fisherman's idea of truth isn't about conforming to societal expectations or chasing external validation. It's about aligning with our true nature, that authentic self that exists beyond social roles and external pressures.
So it's about stripping away the masks we wear for the world.
Exactly.
And connecting with our core essence.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that true fulfillment comes from living in accordance with our own unique nature, rather than trying to fit ourselves into a mold created by others.
That's a powerful idea.
It is.
But it also seems incredibly challenging.
It can be.
How do we even know what our true nature is?
Right.
We're conditioned from such a young age to conform to certain expectations and play certain roles.
That's where the concept of sincerity comes in.
Okay.
For the Fisherman, sincerity isn't just about being honest with others. It's about being honest with ourselves. It's about examining our motivations, our desires, and our actions to see if they're truly aligned with our inner compass.
So it's about cultivating a deep self-awareness,
Yes.
a willingness to look inward
Mm-hmm.
and question our own assumptions and beliefs.
Precisely.
Okay.
And it's not a one-time process. It's an ongoing practice of self-reflection and self-discovery.
Yeah.
The Taoists believe that the journey of self-cultivation is a lifelong pursuit.
I'm reminded of that quote from Socrates.
Yeah.
The unexamined life is not worth living.
Right.
It seems like the Fisherman is echoing that sentiment, urging us to engage in this ongoing process of self-inquiry.
That's a great connection. And this emphasis on self-awareness ties directly back to the concept of wu-wei
Right.
that we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Remember, wu-wei isn't about passivity or laziness.
Right.
It's about aligning ourselves with the natural flow of the Tao and acting in a way that is effortless and spontaneous.
So how does sincerity and this inner work relate to wu-wei?
Okay.
Trying to see the connection here.
When we're sincere with ourselves, when we're aligned with our true nature, our actions naturally flow from a place of authenticity and ease.
Okay.
We're not forcing things.
Ooh,
We're not
okay.
striving to be something we're not.
Yeah.
We're simply being ourselves, and our actions reflect that inner harmony.
It's like that saying, go with the flow. But it's not just about going with the external flow of events.
Right.
It's about aligning with our own internal flow,
Yeah,
our own unique rhythm.
exactly.
Okay.
And the Fisherman suggests that when we're able to tap into that inner flow, we become more receptive to the wisdom and guidance of the Tao. Our actions become more effective, more effortless, and ultimately more fulfilling.
This makes me think about all the times I've struggled to achieve something.
Yeah.
Forcing myself to do things that felt out of alignment
Right.
with my values or my energy. It's like I was swimming upstream, exhausting myself in the process.
I think many of us can relate to that experience.
Right.
The Taoist approach invites us to surrender to the current, to trust that the universe will support us when we're aligned with our true path.
It's a beautiful concept,
It is.
but it also requires a lot of trust and surrender.
It does.
It's about letting go of the need to control everything.
Right.
And allowing ourselves to be guided by something larger than ourselves.
You've captured the essence of it.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we're not separate from the Tao, but rather we're an integral part of it.
Right.
When we align with our true nature, we're naturally aligning with the flow of the universe.
All of this brings me back to Confucius.
Okay.
He embarked on this journey to find the fisherman,
Right.
eager to learn from his wisdom.
Yeah.
How did this encounter ultimately impact him? Did he embrace the Taoist path?
The text doesn't explicitly tell us whether Confucius converted to Taoism,
Okay.
and I think that ambiguity is intentional.
Right.
The story isn't about one philosophy being right and the other wrong.
Okay.
It's about highlighting the value of different perspectives and the importance of staying open to new ways of seeing the world.
So it's not about choosing sides,
Right.
but about expanding our understanding
Yeah.
by considering alternative approaches to life and finding what resonates with us.
Exactly. And I
Oh.
think Confucius, even if he didn't fully embrace Taoism,
Right.
was deeply impacted by his encounter with the fisherman.
Yeah.
There's a scene where he waits for the ripples in the water to calm down before leaving, lost in thought. It suggests a profound shift in his thinking,
Okay.
a recognition of the limitations of his previous worldview.
It's as if he's absorbing the wisdom he's received,
Yeah.
allowing it to settle within him before moving forward.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Thanks.
And it brings us to a key point about wisdom.
Okay.
It's not just about acquiring knowledge.
Right.
It's about integrating that knowledge into our lives, allowing it to transform us from the inside out.
This whole conversation has been so enriching.
It has.
We have explored the tension between Confucianism and Taoism,
Yeah.
delved into the principles of wu-wei, truth, and sincerity,
Right.
and witnessed how even a great sage like Confucius could be humbled and transformed by an encounter with a seemingly ordinary fisherman.
And what's remarkable is that this story, written thousands of years ago, still resonates with us today.
It does.
It speaks to our deep human longing for meaning,
Right.
purpose, and connection. It challenges us to examine our own lives and consider whether we're truly aligned with our true nature
Right.
and with the natural flow of the universe.
I think that's a powerful message to leave our listeners with.
Yeah, it is.
The journey of self-discovery is ongoing,
Right.
and there are multiple paths to wisdom and fulfillment.
Absolutely.
The key is to stay open, curious,
Yeah.
and willing to learn from unexpected sources.
Beautifully said.
Thanks.
And perhaps, like Confucius, we can all find our own fishermen. Those individuals or experiences that challenge our assumptions
Right.
and guide us towards a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Zhuangzi.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope it sparked some new insights and inspired you to continue exploring the rich and timeless wisdom of Taoist philosophy.